Sufi Islam has been just as violent as some elements of Sunni and some elements of Shia. It's not that Sufi Islam is exempt.
There is an assumption that Sufi Islam never participates in jihad.
Fair enough, you don't want to be oppressed, but once you have freedom, stop there. Why do we see the reintroduction of slavery? Why do we see shrines destroyed? Why do we see Muslims calling other Muslims takfir being declared against them?
Kafirs and infidels.
Infidels and kafirs.
They resemble the Salafi jihads, the Sunnis and the Shias, almost to a T. And why is it that the Salafis, the Sunnis, the Shias, and the Sufis all follow the same plan? Where is that plan found?
I think it's the Book of the Man.
Book the Quran, the man Muhammad.
So there's a massive difference between the caliphate, which has seen all this violence, and the kingdom of God, which we want to establish, certainly, but it's true peace. It's not forced peace. It's peace that says, I will be loving towards you, and in that, hopefully, you'll see God's love manifest on this earth.
Sunday. And for those of you who know the significance of Palm Sunday, we celebrate when Jesus entered into Jerusalem. Now, in Egypt this morning, north of Cairo, they were celebrating Palm Sunday in a church, in a Coptic church, were they not?
They were, yeah.
And there was a bomb that went off this morning that killed 21 people in this Coptic church. That just happened this morning. Now, there are many people saying, well, they deserved it. Possibly this has nothing to do with Islam. We do know that the Islamic, certainly the Muslim Brotherhood, Musri and his followers there in Egypt have been targeting the Copts for quite some time now. Other churches have been targeted.
Yeah.
The cathedral in December was targeted. But the question we're asking today, whenever we hear about jihad, we assume that jihad, Islamic jihad, is always Sunni jihad.
Yeah.
That these are Salafi Muslims, right?
That's what the political commentators tell us all the time, that it is Salafi. It's just a Salafi strain of Islam, and it's not Islam in general, that there are various types of Islam, and it's the Salafis who are the violent strands.
And that's the case. You will look at ISIS would be a Sunni group.
Yeah.
Al-Qaeda is a Sunni group.
Yeah.
Boko Haram is a Sunni group.
So the Salafis
Al-Shabaab these are all Sunnis.
Yeah, so the Salafis would be a strain of Sunni.
Hezbollah would be Shiite.
Yes.
So we assume, therefore, that these are only Sunnis and Shiites that are attacking each other. And there is an assumption that Sufi Islam never participates in jihad.
Yeah, so Sufism is very spiritual. There's a lot of chanting. There's a lot of even body movements.
The whirling dervishes.
The whirling dervishes. It seems separate to Sunni and Shia Islam in that it is more spiritual and less aggressive in some certain sense.
And many of the converts to Islam in this country, like Killiam,
yeah,
like Timothy Winters, probably the most famous convert today, who is head of theology at Cambridge University. He is a Sufi convert.
Yeah, many prominent converts to Islam in Western society are Sufi.
Martin Lynch,
yeah,
who is the one that wrote and has done one of the translations of the Quran. He is also a Sufi convert.
On the biography of Islam.
Sorry, he did the biography of Muhammad, not the Quran.
You thinking of Yusuf Ali?
Yusuf Ali?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are all Sufi converts or Sufi adherents.
Yeah, and they're the ones speaking to our politics right now. They have the ear of our politicians.
And the reason they're so popular is because there is this viewpoint that they are peaceful.
Yeah. So obviously we always hear after a terrorist attack, it has nothing to do with Islam. These are Islamists. It's a corrupted version of Islam. And these Sufi scholars, in a certain way, help to bring about that narrative, because they can say, look, the Islam that we follow is not the same of that violent Islam.
Are you hearing this? This is the narrative we're hearing.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, how many of you know some of the great Sufi groups, like the Qadraniyas or the Tijaniyas or some other ones, the Naqshbandi. These are all Sufi groups. Quite a few of them, aren't they?
Yeah.
But these are the groups we've always been told are the nice face of Islam.
Yeah.
The benign face of Islam.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even hear the names. It just gets branded into one Sufi or Shia or Sunni, and then the focus has been on the Salafist strain of Sunni.
So we're going to look at 4 of these groups. 2 in Africa, 1 in Turkey, and 1 in the Caucasus with Russia.
Yeah, we're simply looking at 4 examples, just 4 examples of different Sufi movements to see, is the claim that Sufi is benign, that it is peaceful, is that claim true?
And these are the 19th and 20th century. We're not going to go back to the very roots.
Only the last 200 years.
The last 200 years. We want to look at 4 groups and ask whether or not these are peaceful, benign, esoteric type of Muslims.
Yeah.
Let's talk with the first one, and this is the Samaniya order that comes out of Sudan.
Yeah.
The Samaniya order, and the man behind it is named Muhammad Ahmad. Muhammad Ahmad was born in 1844. He died in 1878, the end of the 19th century. Help me here. What did he do, and what did he say as far as other Muslims, and what he said concerning, in this case, the Ottoman Empire?
So he's very, very interesting. He married the person who started this order, and the person who started the order talked about the Mahdi, a very, very important personality in Islam, in end-time Islam prophecy. And he was saying that the Mahdi is going to come, and the Mahdi is the person who is going to erect my tombstone. And it just so happens that this man goes and erects his tombstone, marries his daughter, erects his tombstone, and declares himself to be the Mahdi. Why is that relevant?
Well, it's the quote he said about the Mahdi.
Yeah.
What he said, and I'm going to quote him. Whoever does not regard that's Muhammad Ahmad's Mahdiship, as true is an unbeliever in God and his apostle. So he's made everybody else who doesn't accept him as the Mahdi as takfir.
Yeah.
They must be excommunicated.
Yeah. So regardless in how long you've been a Muslim or whatever you believe, if you are not following him, if you are not following what he says is Islam, then you are an unbeliever, kafir. He also goes on to say other things, doesn't he?
And most of his material, most of his complaint were against the Ottomans, the Turks. So what did he say about them?
He says, I'm the Mahdi, the successor of the Prophet of God. So he's talking about he is the one after Muhammad. And he says, cease to pay to the infidel Turks, cease to pay taxes, and let everyone who finds a Turk kill him.
Wait, say that again.
Let everyone who finds a Turk kill him.
Kill all the Turks.
For the Turks are infidels.
For the Turks are infidels. So here you have a Sufi sect, and it's called the Samaniya order, headed up by Muhammad Ahmad, who is telling his followers to kill any Turk that they find.
Yeah, and it's not just talking about the Turks in Turkey, it's not just talking about that, but the Turks in those days kind of just filtered out to all of the Muslims. If you look at the literature at that time, when they say rage against the Turks, there were some politicians who said rage against the Turks, they were talking about the Muslim invader. So he is actually saying, all Muslims who do not agree with me, they are infidels and you can kill them.
Okay, now what did he do with those who opposed him?
He was ruthless.
He was ruthless.
He was ruthless.
And he massacred them, did he not?
He massacred them.
These guys here, they're
He
pagans.
massacred them. He completely
They can't
massacred
talk
them.
to me.
What did he do with the Christian
They talk to
missionaries,
Muslims.
the priests, and the nuns
to other
who were
Christians.
there in that
Talk
part
to
of
an
Sudan?
Israelite.
Yeah, so with Catholic
commanded to
Christians, he
teach
got
you
priests
the book.
and he got nuns, and they
Take a
forcibly
debate.
caused them
Take
to
a
convert to
discussion.
Islam, forcibly converted them to Islam,
Ask the man.
and then if that
Talk to
was not
me.
bad enough, he forced them to marry them. He forced, and when we talk about marriage, obviously it means that he forced them to have intercourse because that's how they see, marriage. It has to be, the act has to be consummated.
So the priests and the nuns had a vow of celibacy. He destroyed that vow of celibacy. He made them marry each other, though they weren't even Muslims.
They weren't
These were
even
Catholics.
Muslims. And they were so dedicated to God. They wanted to keep their bodies pure. It wasn't enough that he degraded them and forced them to believe something they didn't believe. He actually forced them to have sex with one another.
And what did he do with the Muslims who objected to him?
Well, he went after them as well. He pillaged, he raped. He said, actually, your wives, if you He distributed numerous female slaves to other Muslims as well who were following him.
So he enslaved the Muslims. He brought back slavery that had been eradicated by Gordon, Governor Gordon, and he brought back slavery, and he distributed the female of the captives to his own men. So we can see this was happening in the 19th century. So, now let's move from there.
So just to say, I mean, the fact that he didn't believe, we see that mirrored in the Quran, don't we? Surah 9:29, fight those who do not believe. He is just extending that to himself and saying, if you do not believe in what I say...
And you can find that in Surah 4:24.
There you go.
You can see that in Scripture. Let's move on now to Somaliland. British Somaliland. We're still in Africa. We're at British Somaliland. And we're now talking about Sayyid Muhammad Abdul Hassan, who died in 1920. So now we're moving into the 20th century. 1920. Hassan, who was he and what did he do? And what order did he belong to? What Sufi order did he belong to?
So he was Sufi as well. He belonged to the
Salahiyya order. So the Salahiyya order is another Sufi order.
It's in the Bible.
It's part of the, and he confronted other orders like the Qadariyas. So he didn't even like other Sufis.
There are two
so at the time he was going against the British, going against the Italians, going against the Abyssinians as well, who had previously...
The Ethiopians today.
The Ethiopians who had previously been attacked by Muslims. And he was going against them, but what he wanted to do is he wanted to set up the caliphate in British Somalia.
He wanted to get people back to the man in the book. He did not like the cut that was being sold, this narcotic. He didn't like smoking. He didn't like anything to do with Sufi shrines. And he eradicated those, and he confronted others who he believed were apostates.
Now, Jay, we don't like smoking of narcotics. So anything that's not good for your body, we oppose that too. But we don't force you to stop it. We don't kill you if you don't agree with us, do we?
No, absolutely not. But he confronted recalcitrant tribes. He looted them. He killed them. He raided them. He slaughtered them. 100 people, including women and children, were killed in Habat Awal. These are fellow Somalis. These were not foreigners.
He was just atrocious, and it led to him being called the Mad Mullah, or the Lunatic Mullah.
He was called the Mad Mullah by the British at that time.
And also other Muslims at the time as well.
And you caught in between.
Of a population of 3 million in Somaliland, he killed 200,000 of them. Almost 250,000 he killed of a population of 3 million. And their only crime was that they were not following Muhammad, and they were not following the Quran. So he was bringing them back to the Quran, bringing them back to Muhammad. Interestingly, is Muhammad a model for that?
He is a model for that. We find in the Quran that if you don't follow,
we don't care. Guess why we don't care? Because we're a nation.
Those who obey Muhammad.
Our book is
and
a
so
nation.
the idea is that you actually have to obey Muhammad. Whatever Muhammad says, whatever Muhammad does, that's his law. And this guy just claims to be following.
He
claims to be following.
Satanism.
Now, folks, don't worry about this. This will all be on YouTube. You can see what we're saying here because we're going through these Sufi sects. We've gone through 2 of them. Now we come to number 3. Number 3 is now further north, is it not?
It is. We're looking at Turkey now.
Now we're going to Turkey.
But going back to that guy, he said it. He did say a lot of things that we probably should talk about. He talked about.
Your mother
it's very, very interesting. He wrote a letter to the British in 1899, and he says this: "You have oppressed our ancient religion without cause. Whatever people obey you, they are liars and slanderers. And if you are wrong, we accept it." Now we hear this kind of accusation all the time. We're just retaliating against the oppressors.
He wrote a poem, didn't he? And he said, "It is my right to plunder the whole world. I want to subjugate every area. I want to hunt down everyone, not even sparing a single girl. All these harmful actions will give me joy and happiness."
So Jay, I mean,
are you listening to this?
If you contrast the two,
this is a Sufi Muslim who is saying this. He wants to dominate the entire world. Everybody, not just those who he's opposing, not just the Ottomans, not just the Turks, not just the British. He wants to oppose everybody.
So to the world, he is saying it's oppression. And yeah, we're against oppression. Nobody wants to be oppressed. But if it was just about freedom, kick them out, stop there, allow people to live how they want to live.
There you go.
But no, he's talking about plundering the whole world. He's talking about subjugating every single area, hunting down everyone and not sparing anyone, not even a single girl. All of these harmful actions give him joy and happiness. It's not about oppression. Maybe it starts with oppression, but stop there when you get freedom. But when you're talking about plundering the whole world, we're talking about something else. We're talking about an Islamic caliphate.
There you go. Coming back to that original order.
Yeah.
Coming back to that original Rashidun period.
Yeah.
The time of the four rightly guided caliphs. And coming back to Muhammad himself as his model. Now we know of another Sufi man that did this in Turkey.
Yes.
He was a Kurd. But he wasn't a normal Kurd. Because he was against Ataturk. He was against Kemal Ataturk. He was against Muhammad Kemal.
Yeah.
Mustafa Kemal, sorry, who later became Kemal Ataturk. He was against Turkish hegemony. That was a secularizing organization. Kemal Ataturk, as you know, in Turkey, wanted to get away from Islam and bring it back to a secular ideal.
Just wanted to temper Islam. Just wanted to temper it and not. Well, as this guy we're going to bring out sees, he didn't fulfill the Islamic conditions of Sharia as he thought it should be carried out. He wanted to go to letter. He wanted to go to every dot, all those kasra fatas, all those kinds of things. And Ataturk was watering it down. He didn't like it.
No.
He didn't like it at all.
Ataturk was the one that tried to secularize Turkey. He made the women take off the hijab.
Yeah.
He also wanted to make sure that people were able to be educated, women and men, equally. The man there who was against him was Sheikh Said. Sheikh Said. And he revolted in 1925 against Kemal Ataturk.
Yes.
Now, what the things, he belonged to the Naqshbandi group. The Naqshbandi is another Sufi order. This is not Sunni, this is not Shiite, this is Sufi.
Yeah, this is not Salafi, this is Sufi. Yeah, so he talks about people being betrayers of Islam. Betrayers of Islam. He wanted to go back to pure Islam. He wanted to go back to the book. He wanted to go back to the example of Muhammad. And he saw the watering down of Sharia laws. He saw that as a betrayal.
So he wanted to come back and restore the holy law of Islam, which is Sharia law. He wanted to go back to the Muhammad's example, back to that early period, go back to the man in the book. We said this many times from the ladder, haven't we?
Yes. He engaged in declaring takfir against these people.
And what did he do to them?
Well, I mean, he was saying, in declaring takfir against them, he said it was every Muslim's duty to resist them. Now, this is Quranic language.
This is Quranic, is it not?
This is the language of the Sharia.
That's Surah 8, Ayah 39.
Yeah, he was called.
That's Surah 9, Ayah 9:5, and also verse 29. That's Surah 47, Ayah 4.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go on. There's about 100 of these verses we could repeat right now.
Authoritative commandments to rise up and resist to every single Muslim. He's saying you need to resist them. He's declaring, saying these people are not Muslim, these people are not Muslim. I am showing you the true Islam. If you are a true Muslim, you need to rise up and resist them.
Slay the unbeliever until there is no more fitna, no more unbelief in the land.
That's what he was
Surah
saying.
8, Ayah 39. So there's the scriptural reference that supports what he's saying.
Yeah.
He killed in 24th of March, 1925. 300 rebels entered the provincial town of Elazig, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, and they sacked the town. The rebels plundered, tortured, and raped the women that were there. And the conduct was similar to what we see ISIS doing today.
It's just disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. But it's not just ISIS. We can go all the way back to Prophet Muhammad and see how he dealt with towns and places that didn't accept him as a prophet.
Okay, now we jump up to the Caucasus.
Yeah.
And we now go to another man, and this man's name is Imam Shamil. Imam Shamil was against the Russians, and he wanted to control and destroy the Russian there in the Caucasus. And he wanted to bring back the Sharia law. He wanted basically to bring back the Caucasus to the 7th century model, did he not?
Yeah. So we're talking about the area in between Europe and Asia, that piece of land there. This is what we're talking about.
What was he particularly against? What were some practices he did not like? Singing, dancing, drinking, and what he called illicit sex, which means kissing and coupling.
Well, he saw a group of women who didn't go to pray when there was the call. He also saw a man sitting with them.
An old man
sitting with them. He saw this as free mixing. Very, very bad. Very, very bad.
He took the staff of the man, beat the man, which uncovered him, and then he beat the women as well. So he became his own highest authority.
Yeah, and the reason we're going through this again is we're trying to show that Sufi Islam has been just as violent as some elements of Sunni and some elements of Shia. It's not that Sufi Islam is exempt.
Okay, let's do a quote that he gave.
Yeah.
This is his own quote. Shamil says this: "We will make peace and settle down when the Sharia is followed among us Muslims, either voluntarily or by compulsion."
So Islam is a religion of peace.
There you go. Once everybody has become Muslim, once everybody settles down and follows the example of the Prophet and follows the law of Islam, then we will make peace, he says.
Then we will make peace.
Then he goes on, whoever accepts it voluntarily, this will be good for them.
Yeah.
But whoever refuses this, we will compel them to do it and fight them over this.
So there is no choice. Jay, but I hear Muslims tell me that there's no compulsion in religion. How can he be telling people that he will compel them?
But this is a Naqshbandi Sufi sect.
Yeah.
They are the peace lovers. They are the ones we have been told are the benign Muslims.
Jay, you must be wrong.
They must be wrong. We have given 4 different groups, have we not?
Well, yeah, we're seeing that even the things that we're being told by our media, by the Sufi elites that we see in the UK, is not in accordance with history. We're seeing Sufism being violent. We're seeing the religion of peace being peaceful when it has subjugated, when it has compelled others to follow this particular.
So the Salafiyat sect in Sudan against the Ottomans, the Somaliland against the British and the Italians, in the Naqshbandi sect in Turkey against Kemal Ataturk, and then in the Caucasus, the Naqshbandi sect against the Russians. So these are all Sufi sects. They were all against the Ottomans, the British, the Italians, the Russians, and the Turks.
Fair enough, you don't want to be oppressed, but once you have freedom, stop there. Why do we see the reintroduction of slavery? Why do we see shrines destroyed? Why do we see Muslims calling other Muslims, takfir being declared against them?
Kafirs and infidels.
Infidels and kafirs. Why do we see that? Why do we see the rape and marriages just annulled so that men can take other men's wives?
Why do we see the reintroduction of slavery, which is your subject? Why is it that they fought? They wanted to bring the Khilafah in violently, motivated by prophecy, yet they resemble the Salafi jihads, the Sunnis and the Shias, almost to a T. And why is it that the Salafis, the Sunnis, the Shias, and the Sufis all follow the same plan? Where is that plan found?
I think it's the book and the man, Jay.
The book and the man, the book and the man. The book, the Quran, the man, Muhammad. Now, we're Christians. We also follow a book and a man, do we not? As Christians, we also believe in the Bible, the New Testament, and Jesus Christ. Are we permitted to have a Khilafah here in this country?
No, so there's a massive difference between the Caliphate, which has seen all this violence, and the Kingdom of God, which we want to establish, certainly, but it's true peace. It's not forced peace. It's peace that says, I will be loving towards you, and in that, hopefully, you'll see God's love manifest on this earth. Not that I will be violent towards you and force you to fall in line with what I believe.
In Matthew 22, verse 21, when asked about the kingdom, what about paying taxes? Who should you pay taxes to? Jesus says, give me a coin. Look whose image is on the coin. Caesar's image. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to God what belongs to God. He separated church and state, didn't he?
And look how sophisticated that was.
That's hugely sophisticated. That was 2,000 years ago. What did Jesus mean by that?
He was talking about you do your duties to the state, but also you have a greater duty. In the Bible, we are made in the image of God. If it was a coin, it would be our image in God's hands. We are to give ourselves to God.
So the church follows God. We as Christians follow God. The state has its own responsibilities. It can go to war, that's true, but not the church.
And even in that example, the first example we looked at in Sudan, the person who self-declared themselves as a Mahdi there, he said, do not pay taxes. Don't worry about the state. Don't worry about the state. Your duty is only to Allah.
There you go. Oh, I love Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Matthew 26, verse 62. What does Jesus say? When he was trying to be protected by Peter, he did, Peter, put away your sword, for he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Oh, Jesus. Not Allah. Jesus. Who is the King of Kings?
Jesus.
Who is the Lord of Lords?
Jesus.
Who is God in heaven?
Jesus.
Who is God on earth?
Jesus.
Who died on the cross?
Jesus.
Who then rose again?
Jesus.
Who now is in heaven?
Jesus.
Who is for you and me?
Jesus.
Who wants to bring you home?
Jesus.
What's his name?
Jesus.
What's his name?
Jesus.
Do you love that name? Is he the man for today?
Yes.
Is his the kingdom for today?
Yes.
I love Jesus, and I love his kingdom. Forget about the Khilafah. Forget about the Sunnis, the Shias, the Salafis, and even the Sunnis, the Sufis. Bring him back to Jesus Christ. God bless you. So good to be up here. Thanks so much.